Hi, my name's Paul Cresswell. Welcome to Paul's Tackle Reviews. The purpose of this channel is to give you some reviews of tackle that's been out on the bank, tried and tested by an unbiased, unsponsored angler, and that's me. As I say with all of my videos, just because something works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but I'll try and give you all the information so you can make your own mind up. Today I'm looking at two 4-meter landing net handles that I've got, and so we've got the Maver Signature Pro Power 4-meter and the Middy Muscle Tech 4-meter. Your landing net handle is a really important piece of tackle, and it will make a difference of how many fish you catch as to how well you can net fish. What we're looking for the same thing as we look for in our poles. We're looking for something that's stiff and strong and light, and there's always going to be a compromise between those different elements. But that's what we want to enable us to net our fish in the most efficient way. I've had a number, and I'm going to put photos as usual up here. I've had a number of landing net handles, and this list is just the ones that I've owned over the last 10 to 15 years. So we've got the Drennan Series 7 Real Workhorse, I think Unbreakable. I then got the TriCast XRS, very similar to the Drennan, and I had another cheap backup one, and I decided between the two, and I kept the Drennan. I just personally preferred that of the two. I then pushed the boat out and got the Daiwa Arity when they came out, and it was about 120 quid, and this was probably 12 years ago. A really nice handle, but the tip section did break during normal use, and I had it repaired, but thereafter I never had the same confidence in it. You might have also seen a video I did, and I've got the Drennan Acolyte Carp and the Gabolino Netzy, and I've done a review of both of those. And rather foolishly, when the new matte one came out at £200 and it was all raved about this was going to be the one, I thought, right, let's just go for it. Landing net, really important. I bought that. I didn't like it. It felt nice. It was really light. It was really stiff. I just didn't feel it had the strength in it for scooping fish. And funnily enough, you don't see many pro anglers using it. They're all using different ones. And then we've got the two I'm coming on to today. So we've got the Maver Signature Pro and the Middy Muscle Tech. So how long do you need a landing net handle? And I think I said in one of my previous videos, 3.5 meters is a really good length. And I do still think that that's a kind of dual length. But let's look at the pros. Des Ship, if you see him, 9 times out of 10, unless it's a particularly deep venue, he's going to have the bottom 2 sections of his Preston Response handle. So that's 2.6, 2.7 meters. You then look at people like Jamie Hughes and John Arthur. They've always got 4 meters, and when I watch them with some of the skills they have netting fish just as they top quite some way out, I think it's amazing. Not something I've been able to replicate, and I don't think my skill set will allow me to do that, and certainly the left side of my body probably isn't strong enough to do what they do. It is amazing. So Des Ship does catch a few fish, does win a few matches, to say the least, and he's using one at 2.8 meters, and that's a distance. If I'm on the carp puddles, that's the kind of thing I tend to use. Occasionally I'll put the 4-meter section on, but if I'm fishing on the Gloucester Canal, where I could have a rig that's top 5, at least top 4, then you do need 4 meters because the fish come further out and you need to scoop them when they come up. When I started fishing the canal a couple of years ago, I thought I do need a 4 metre landing net handle, and I went to Bristol Angling, excellent shop, had a look at what they got, and I came away with the Maver, and I did compare it to the Daiwa offerings at the time, but I just felt it was better. They didn't have the Drennan at the time. What I didn't want to do is get one with mini extensions and little top bits and all of that. I want a 3-piece, 4 metre handle I could use at 2 lengths, and that fitted the bill perfectly. And I tested them in the shop and kept putting landing net handles on before I walked away with that. You can use the Maver at 2.6 metres or 4 metres because it has threads on the middle section and the tip section photo there to show the threads. These look really secure, no movement at all. What I will say is on all of my landing nets, you'll see the little silver thing on top, and that's a quick release connector. And I've used these for over 10 years, and you simply click on your landing net and click it off. And I've caught monster fish, and I've never had one break or give, and all that time. It just saves a bit of time winding things together, just makes things easier. It's got reinforced ends at the bottom of the second section and the tip section, and the diameter around 50 centimetres from the base, which is where you're going to be holding it with your left hand. It's around 32 millimeters, so that's somewhere around there. It's around 32 mil diameter. This is really strong, and I'm squeezing it, I'm getting a tiny amount of give. I'm pretty sure you could walk up and down it, there wouldn't be a problem. I probably wouldn't run my car over it, the kind of thing I've done in the past. And I think it's been an excellent at all lengths. Now, I tend to use it with the big section and the middle section as my general carp handle, and then I put the tip section on when I'm fishing longer, or I want a 4 metre, or I'm on the canal. I don't very often use the top 2 sections. I don't know why, I've never thought about it. That's just how I use it. It's super stiff. I'll come on to the test that I've done later, and scooping fish is no issue, and they're around 110 to 120 pounds, and that's what I paid for it. Now we're moving on to the Middy Muscle Tech, and hopefully many of you have seen my lines looking at my videos looking at lines, looking at their breaking strength and the test that I did with them. I did send an email to a couple of manufacturers that I'd got contact details for, asking if they'd send lines. Nobody got back to me except Middy and said they don't have lines in stock at the minute, but we will send you a landing net handle to review. Now, last year I reviewed some ground bait that was sent to me by Adrenaline Ground Baits, a company linked to Middy, and you can watch that on the channel. I still use that as paste, and my proviso with Middy was, that's fine, but you have to let me say what I think about this landing net handle. It won't be a sugar-coated magazine review. If I don't like it, I'll say I don't like it. If I do like it, I'll say that. And Middy said, that's fine, that's not a problem. So they very generously sent me the 4 metre Muscle Tech landing net handle to review, and I'm going to compare it to the Maver as well. It's a 3-piece handle, and you'll see from the opening bit, but it is much slimmer, and around 50 centimetres from the bottom. It's it's probably about 25mm diameter, about an inch, so it's much slimmer, and it's probably 20% slimmer than the Maver one. But as a result, it only has a one threaded top at the very end, a really secure thread, photo coming up, and it can only therefore be used with the top two sections or all three sections together for 4 meters. Again, it's very stiff, and there's a table coming up of some tests that I did here, and it is ultra strong, and this really, there's no give at all. The whole thing feels incredibly strong, and I think the smaller diameter, it is lighter than the Maver on the scales, but the smaller diameter means that the strength is really built into it. It has wraps on the bottom of the tip and the second section, and it has a really nice finish to it as well. It is lighter than the Maver, as I said. It isn't quite as stiff, but I'll show you all the details. But I think the most amazing thing when I started looking at this and then did a bit of surfing on the internet is you can pick these up for 50 quid. How did I test them? So I've tried to be a bit more scientific here, and I've tested them both at all of their different lengths. So set my box outside, there'll be a photo here, put an arm off the back of my box, put the landing net under that on some scales, made sure that the landing net was perfectly flat by using a spirit level on top of the landing net. So I adjusted at the back so it's perfectly flat at the back. I then measured it at various lengths. I put a landing net handle head on this. So my go-to is an 18-inch Preston latex carp landing net. I attached this, so all the figures you're going to get in the table are measured with a landing net on. We can all pick them up and waggle and say that's really stiff. Put a net on, sometimes they can feel very different. So I got readings for the length, and then at each length I measured the height of the butt off the ground and the height where it connects to the net off the ground, so you can see how much it droops over that period. And with it being on scales and flat at the bottom, I could then get a reading of how much downforce the landing net handle was putting, so therefore effectively how much weight it felt in your hand at the various lengths. I recorded all of these and I've put them in a table, and I'm going to put the table on screen now and I'm going to take you through it. So I've put Middy Arco Take. It's actually called the Muscle Take, a typing error on my part. So down the left we've got the various measurements, and then across the top we've got each of the 5 options. So there's 3 options with the Maver and 2 options with the Middy. So let's look at the first one. Let me take you through this table. The first one is the top 2 sections of the Maver, and that's 2.56 meters, and it weighs on the scales 239 grams. In my test with the net on, the downforce it was putting on the scales, so therefore the weight you really have to pick up, is 3.3 kilos. But over the whole of that 2.56, it had only dropped 2 centimeters. So you can get an immediate gauge that that is super stiff. Remember, this has got a landing net on. The equivalent for the Middy, so their top 2 sections, was 2.61, and it weighed only 191 grams, and the downforce was slightly lighter, 3.2 kilos, and it dropped 5 centimeters over that 2.61, so that's only it's under 2 centimetres per metre that the drop is. The Maver with the bottom 2 sections was nearly 2.9, weighed 315 grams, and the downforce had increased, that was 3.9 kilograms, and it had dropped 3 centimetres over that length, so it's only dropping 1 centimetre per metre, so it's hardly dropping at all. We then come to the 2 measurements of the 2 nets at full length. The Maver was 3.98 metres and weighed 412 grams, and the downforce was 5.6 kilos, and it dropped 18 centimetres over that 4 metres. That's just 4.5 centimetres per metre. The Middy was just a tad over 4 metres, 350 grams, 5.4 kilograms of weight, so lighter in the hand than the Maver, and that had dropped 5.5 centimetres per metre, so slightly more drop as can be seen in the table. I'd like some comments on the methodology, but I think that is a good measure of a landing net handle. It gives you the weight in your hand and it gives you how stiff it is. How strong? They're both very, very strong. Don't know how to measure that other than by putting bricks in the net and seeing when it breaks. I'm not going to do that. What are my conclusions? Well, they are different. They're at different price points, but they are both great handles to use. The Maver is a better handle. It's slightly stiffer, slightly heavier in the feel, but it is stiffer to use, and you've got that option of different lengths. But for the price, the Middy, I think, is an absolutely fantastic landing net handle. I don't think you're compromising much. We are talking about £60 difference. You could buy one of them little nitro rods I've just reviewed for 35 quid and still have 25 quid in your pocket. I don't think you're making a big compromise. I think you need to say to yourself, what level of fishing am I at? I'd be happy using the Middy in an open match. I'm guessing all the top end anglers are going to be using the Signature and they're using the Guru and all the other ones that are £120 plus. They're both very usable at both lengths. I think they're both very stiff, only a slight difference between the two, but the Middy isn't a heavy, floppy, cheap landing net handle. I think you would need to have bad technique to break either of these, and that means getting a great big fish and lifting it out of the water and things like that. We all know you bring it to, you grab the net at the bottom. They've got strong, secure mechanisms to do that. I think most breakages of landing nets down to poor technique on the angler's part. I think these are fairly bomb-proof. Nothing's unbreakable in the wrong hands with poor technique. I think that is a good way of reviewing a landing net handle by comparing it to another one, albeit in a different price range. If I'd had 10 top of the range ones and done those tests that I did outside with the scales and whatever, that would have been really interesting. But I've tried to do something scientific and tried to do something different as well. If you've got any comments or you've got any questions about these, pop it below and I will try and get back to you. If you want to give me a thumbs up, that's great for the video, helps spur me on a bit. If you want to subscribe, I've got some more videos coming, I'm getting back into it. I've just been on holiday, I don't know if you can tell, a very slight tan. And I've got over 60 videos now on my channel if you want to watch them. Until next time, tie lines.